Hello, my noble band of outlaws. Outlaw Samurai coming at you live with a video. Well, if you saw the title of the video, you'll know that we're discussing wizardy things. More specifically, wizards with spears. Now, the concept of the pointy stabby stick has been around for centuries. Since before man could first speak, back during the Oonga Boonga days of the caveman, and now with the skibbity riz toilet bullshit of the modern generation. You can just tell the depression in my voice. But in any case, wizards and spears. Why don't they use them? Now, we all know the classic wizard, like fantasy wizard of the long flowing robes, great white beard, pointy hat, and a staff going, I don't care, saying the ancient and most powerful incantation, fuck it, I don't care how big the room is, I cast Fireball! The D&D community will understand what that means. But in any case, the thing I want to get to is, wizards in media, they seem incredibly unbalanced. And what I mean by this is, usually whenever you have a wizard in media, the only thing they're able to do is cast magic. And if their magic runs out, then they're pretty much useless. Just dead weight to the party. However, normally, combat and melee combat and magic doesn't go together because of a few separate things. In some magic systems, wizards can't use metal weapons because iron, like wrought iron or steel, well, steel is just iron with carbon in it, but in any case, iron, usually in most magic systems, restricts a wizard's magic in some way or another. Like the flow of their mana or whatever. But then you also have wizards in anime and enchanted swords made by wizards. So there are gray areas. It all depends on the magic system that the author creates. And one of these animes that comes to mind recently that I've watched is Rise of the Seven Spellblades. In this anime, there are wizards and there's an academy, but in this anime, wizards carry swords along with their wand because at some point, a magicless swordsman killed a very powerful wizard by getting so close to them that they did not have time to finish casting their spells. And again, some magic systems, all you have to do is know the name of the spell and you can cast it. Some you have to do out an extremely long chant. Some are little chants. Some spells have short chants that you can abbreviate. Some chants you can get away with not using, but they cause the spell to be weaker. It all depends on the magic system. But in this world, in this Rise of the Seven Spellblades, what they do is they actually channel their magic through their swords. And in a lot of cases, they use the sword more than the wand to cast their spells. Which I find to be actually ingenious. Because then, instead of just casting Fireball from afar, let's say you're a wizard and you've gotten into a sword, and even in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf uses both a staff and a sword. Glamdring, the foe hammer. So, wizards can use swords. And they can use other weapons. It all depends, again, on the magic system. But this means that, let's say you're clashing with an opponent, and all of a sudden, your opponent starts to chant, but you know how to use, let's say in this world, you can cast a spell without a chant, but it's at half strength. and they start the chant for fireball, and you just cast fireball. Just straight out from the tip of your sword and blow them the hell up from a short distance. And this opens up the possibility for customizing the spell. Let's say you cast fireball on your blade, but you swing the blade, and instead of a ball of fire, it becomes an arc of fire that just covers a much wider area. Now, sword wizard out of the way. My thing is, if you're going to give a wizard a staff anyways, why not make it a spear? And you don't even have to give it a metal, like a steel metal tip. There are plenty of examples of bronze-tipped spears, orichalcum as it was called back in period. And orichalcum is also used in magic systems as like a magic-rich metal. So, a metal that allows you to focus magic through it. So, give the wizard an orichalcum-tipped spear. Or mithril-tipped spear. Metals that usually have high magic conductivity to them. Plus, when the mana runs out, and again, depending on the magic system, if mana and stamina are two different energy sources, like your mana runs out but your stamina is still high, you can then just switch to spear combat. Of course, you could also just sharpen the end of your wizard staff and make a very simple wooden spear. But let's just imagine this scenario. You're fighting, let's say, a beholder from D&D. Automatically, I just got copyrighted. But in any case, you're fighting a beholder. And your wizard, he casts fireball. He's cast fireball. He casts fireball. Note, if I played a wizard in D&D, all 6 of my spell slots would just be fireball. Fireball! And that's really the only meme-worthy spell I know. But let's say he uses up all of his spells and his magic. But he still has, like, stamina and maybe a couple of hit points left. What he can then do is, instead of just casting fireball, you've now turned your wizard into a potential midline to borderline frontline fighter by equipping him with a spear. Especially any kind of spear that has a long blade that you can both cut and stab with, like a hewing spear. And you can slash at the beholder, you could stab at the beholder. Hell, you could even chuck the damn magic spear into the big-ass eye in the center of the beholder and blind the son of a bitch. Plus, with this in mind, what you've essentially built is a more dexterous, more universally usable fighter. I've always felt like whenever I've seen wizards portrayed in media, especially in anime, it's like, oh, I've run out of mana, I'm completely useless. Pick up a stick and swing it! Alright? Why is it that the MC is the only one that realizes by combining martial arts and magic together, you become far more deadly and powerful? Alright? And again, in some systems, it's like you either have to dedicate your life to the sword or magic, or if you do both, you'll never be as powerful as the ones who have dedicated their lives to one or the other, unless you're a fucking elf or some other long-lived race. But this is what I'm trying to get at. If you give your wizard a spear, and you have him train in both magic and combat, then when his mana runs out, if he still has stamina left over, you now have a frontline spearman or mid-line support spearman. I don't know the full party terms of D&D. Now, whether this is viable or not, again, as I keep saying, it depends on the magic system that you're using. But, in my mind, it just makes sense to give the guy waving around a staff a pointy stick. Now, I hear you saying, well, Outlaw, you make valid points that if you build a wizard that has both combat and magical offensive and defensive abilities, that it's more tactically viable. But what about the wizard's clothing in mind? Because traditionally wizards wear long flowing robes, and those can get in the way of using a spear or sword properly. True, but not always. Depends again on the magic system. In some magic systems, wizards have to wear them to accelerate the flow of mana through the body, whatever, blah, blah, blah. In some magic systems, like in Dungeon Meshi, for example, the longer your hair, the more magic you have, or whatever. Some magic systems require you to have long flowing hair to better flow mana, or... Again, it all depends on the magic system. But if you're working with a magic system that does not require the wizard to wear long flowing robes like that, which, let's be honest, you could always do what the Japanese do with their hakumas and their kimonos, which is take a sageo cord, hold one end in your mouth, wrap it around your arm on your back, wrap it again, and bring it around like this, and then tie it off, and it pulls the sleeves up, freeing your arms. Or, if you don't have to wear multiple different styles of flowing robe, like some wizard designs have like 2 or 3 different robes layered on top of each other, the traditional, like, Christian monk, like the monastery monk of the 1500s, or like, I'm pretty sure some of you have seen them even in today. I've seen them sometimes when I'm in town. There are these monks that wear like long robes, like the old European monk robe, basically. That easily could become a wizard's robe, and with that kind of robe, all you have to do is tie up the sleeves, and you've essentially eliminated a lot of the needless baggage of having to tie back all the different robes. In some magic systems, the wizard can just wear an overcoat. Like, I've seen some wizards wear 3-piece suits and an overcoat in some of the animes and magic systems I've seen. So it really depends on if you're going to have the clothing that the wizard wear have any kind of effect on their magic abilities or casting strength. But let's just say, for hyper example, that you're in a world where a wizard can wear anything they want and it will not affect their magic system at all. How would I build a combat wizard? First, gambeson and chainmail. Alright? I don't feel wizards should not be tanks. Alright? They won't train hard enough or long enough to get the body required to be a tank. So, gambeson, chainmail, maybe a couple of pieces of plate. Mainly just a breastplate, similar to how a man-at-arms or mercenaries would have been armed in the 16th century. Maybe a couple of gauntlets, maybe some greaves, something like that. Very light plate armor, if any. Normally, I would just have them wear gambeson and chainmail and maybe a helmet. Second, I would have them have a magic spear. Now, I hear what you're saying. Again, something I have not mentioned yet. Oh, Outlaw, it's not just a wizard staff that allows them to use magic. Sometimes they have jewels. Like some of the magic systems require a magic jewel to be embedded in the staff in order for them to use the magic. And to that I say, it's really easy to just set a magic jewel at the base of a spearhead. Or if you don't want to put it near the spearhead, you can put it near the shaft or even in the pommel. Hell, there's nothing saying that you can't mount the magic gem on the inside. Make like a, you know how shovels have like a socket that they secure the haft to. Just mount the magic jewel at the very top of the wooden part, slide the socket onto the pole, secure it, and boom, you have your magic jewel in your staff. And in some cases, you don't even need to put the magic jewel in your staff. Sometimes, all you have to do is wear like some kind of accessory or an amulet that has the magic jewel in it. And if I was going to have a magic jewel put onto a sword, I would just have it put in the pommel. But in this hypothetical world we're building, we're not going to have to use a magic jewel embedded in the weapon. So, again, I said chainmail, light gambeson, and I would give the wizard a hewing spear, which a hewing spear is similar in shape to this, just a little longer, a little narrower. It's essentially a dagger or short sword blade stuck at the end of a spear. And as I mentioned previously in the video, that's so that the wizard can both use his magic, but also be able to slice and stab at the enemies once his mana runs out. And one last thing I hear you say, well, Outlaw, all this sounds saying good, but there's one thing that magical weapons have that you haven't mentioned yet, and that is the ability to basically enchant a spell and throw the weapon. If a lot of you have seen any kind of magic archer media, you'll see that the archer channels the spell into the arrow before it's shot out of the bow, which allows you to basically increase the range of any potential spell you cast. You can do something very similar with the magic spear. Basically, you do the exact same thing. You enchant the spear with a spell, and then you chuck that bitch. So, let's just say, for example, Fireball has a maximum range of 50 feet, and your opponent's 100 feet in front of you. Now, throwing a spear 100 feet, as far as I'm aware, is within the realm of physical ability for a human to do. I doubt I could do it, but a professional javelin thrower probably could. Or let's say that you're actually on like the upper level of a labyrinth and the monsters below you and the rest of the party's fighting below you. And you enchant the spear with Fireball and you just throw it down. You have effectively doubled and even possibly tripled the range of the spell just by enchanting it onto an object and then throwing it or shooting it from a bow. Which also brings me to wizards with bows, but I will talk about that later. So, not to make a 24-hour video. But yeah, in conclusion, my noble band of outlaws, I feel that if you're going to give a wizard a staff, you might as well just upgrade that to a spear. And who knows, you can even have like a school of wizardry that is specifically devoted to mastering both magic and spear. Like they have magic spear techniques that allow them to basically take down monsters that a whole party would have to be assembled to take on. But let me know what you think down in the comments below, my noble band of outlaws. Until next time, Outlaw Samurai, to all y'all be crazy rednecks. Be safe and use your weapons. I'm out. Peace. Hope you enjoyed.